A subtle but unmistakable tension now simmers between two eras of the UFC's most unconventional championship, as the inaugural BMF title holder Jorge Masvidal has responded with a blend of respect and thinly veiled competitive fire to Max Holloway's recent characterization of the belt's history. Holloway, the current champion who seized the title in perhaps the most dramatic fashion imaginable with a last-second knockout at UFC 300, had previously labeled the BMF strap a laughingstock before his reign, a remark that resonated as an open critique of past holders like Justin Gaethje and, pointedly, the man who first defined its chaotic essence, Jorge Masvidal. In a recent conversation on the Ariel Helwani show, Masvidal addressed the comment with the measured demeanor of a veteran who has navigated countless verbal skirmishes, beginning with gracious acknowledgement of Holloway's legendary status, calling him one of the best to ever do it and praising his undeniable heart. Yet that respect served as a prelude to a firm, almost wistful counterpunch. Masvidal painted a hypothetical canvas, imagining a stylistic clash between himself or even Nate Diaz and Holloway, asserting with quiet confidence that such a night would not have ended in Blessed's favor. He framed it as a dream matchup, a stand-up connoisseur's delight, but one where he believes his own skills would have ultimately prevailed, openly questioning what Holloway could have possibly meant by his laughingstock jab. When pressed on whether he took offense, Masvidal's answer revealed the nuanced pride of a founder. He conceded a slight sting, given that he was the first to compete for and define the title's raw, unfiltered ethos, but quickly he pivoted to a pointed observation laced with irony. Holloway, a former featherweight king who once claimed he didn't need the other belt, now seems to cherish the BMF title above all, parading it around town as his prized possession. It's a subtle reminder of the title's captivating, almost paradoxical power, mocked by some until its moment of glory claims them too. Now, their paths diverge toward massively different horizons. Holloway prepares to defend the very belt in question against the formidable Charles Oliveira at UFC 326, carrying its legacy forward. Meanwhile, Masvidal eyes an even grander stage, teasing a potential blockbuster at the White House event, with rumors swirling around a clash with Conor McGregor. The exchange, while civil, underscores the perpetual dialogue of legacy in combat sports, where respect is always intertwined with the unshakable belief that in a different time or a different matchup, history could have been written by a different hand. The aftermath of UFC 319 lingers like a persistent storm cloud for Dricus du Plessis and his team, a bitter taste left by a lopsided unanimous decision loss, where the former middleweight champion found himself smothered under the relentless, blanket-like wrestling of the unbeaten Khamzat Chimaev, a performance that transformed du Plessis from one of the division's greatest into a frustrated figure trapped on the canvas. Now, as he sets his sights on a return against contenders like Nasruddin Imavov or Brendan Allen to rebuild his path, the narrative is fiercely dominated not by his future, but by the haunting past of that title fight and the vehement belief from his corner that it was a fluke, a perfect storm of poor preparation and tactical misunderstanding waiting to be corrected. In a blisteringly candid assessment, du Plessis' longtime coach, Morne Visser, dissected the defeat with a mix of technical critique and simmering outrage, framing it not as a demonstration of Chimaev's superiority, but as a failure of expectation. He pointed to small mistakes that compounded every minute of every round, but the core of his argument was far more pointed. They were utterly unprepared, he claims, for an opponent not willing to fight, a wrestler who chose to be a blanket rather than an engaged martial artist. Visser's frustration extended to the officiating, suggesting referee Mark Goddard should have stood the action up repeatedly, criticizing a fight that devolved into a grappling hold rather than a dynamic contest. He concedes Chimaev executed his singular grinding game plan perfectly, but dismisses it as a one-dimensional trick, insisting that in every other facet, the stand-up, the clinch, Chimaev possesses zero chance against du Plessis. This sets the stage for a rematch narrative boiling with vengeance and absolute certainty from the du Plessis camp. Visser's promise is not of a competitive adjustment, but of a violent reversal. This time around, he's gonna get fucked up. The entire loss is compartmentalized as a solitary, fixable flaw, the ability to shed that suffocating top pressure, with the implication that once solved, Chimaev's only path to victory evaporates. It's a dramatic reframing of a dominant title fight, transforming du Plessis from a man outclassed into a champion in exile who was merely ambushed by a style he foolishly didn't see coming, a king who simply needs to correct one glaring oversight to reclaim his throne and deliver a brutal lesson to the man who took it. The confidence is absolute, the blame assigned, and the warning issued. The next time, if there is a next time, will tell a completely different story. The long, winding, and often frustrating saga of Conor McGregor's return to the octagon has taken yet another dramatic and disheartening turn for Michael Chandler, who finds himself once again on the outside looking in, his patient wait for the fight that has defined his last few years seemingly shattered by a few blunt words from the UFC boss. The announcement of the historic White House event on June 14th had initially seemed like the final, perfect catalyst, with McGregor himself eagerly registering his interest for the monumental stage, a development that filled Chandler with his most concrete confidence yet that their long-promised clash would finally materialize in a setting worthy of its hype. However, that confidence was dealt a crushing blow when Dana White, during his media rounds to promote the new Paramount era, dismissed the matchup as a relic of the past, something that was interesting a couple of years ago, but no longer on the table. In the wake of that dismissal, the landscape has shifted rapidly and chaotically. McGregor, ever the master of controlling his own narrative, responded with a broad challenge, telling the UFC to simply pick an opponent for him, effectively opening the door for anyone while sidestepping any specific commitment to Chandler. Almost immediately, that vacuum was filled by the teasing whispers of Jorge Masvidal, who coyly spoke of huge news and being in talks, fanning the flames of a new potential blockbuster for the White House lawn. This prompted a bitterly sarcastic response from a snubbed Chandler on social media, mocking the vague, cannot confirm nor deny posturing that now surrounds his coveted spot, a clear expression of his frustration after years of dedicated promotion and waiting. Now, the very presence of McGregor on the White House card, while still the dominant hope, feels wrapped in fresh layers of uncertainty. The Irishman continues to train, sharing glimpses of his imposing physique, a constant reminder of his potential readiness, but without a dance partner officially named. The path is murky. Will the UFC pivot to the commercially enticing Masvidal showdown, or perhaps another legend for a mega fight? Or has the entire White House plan for McGregor become entangled in the larger web of his ongoing contract renegotiations, spurred by the end of the PPV model? For Chandler, the dream appears to have evaporated into the political and promotional ether of this unique event, leaving him to watch from the sidelines as the circus moves on, his headline moments snatched away by the fickle winds of fight politics, replaced by the echo of his own mocking tweet and the grim realization that after all this time, he might have been waiting for a fight that the promotion has simply decided to leave in the past. In the whirlwind high-stakes universe of the UFC, where fortunes are made and broken with every punch and pay-per-view, Dana White operates with a flamboyant, no-apologies brand of leadership that often manifests in grand, unexpected gestures, like handing out $1,000 tips as if they were mere pocket change, a move that perfectly encapsulates his persona as both a man of the people and a kingmaker. This isn't just about generosity, it's a calculated performance, a raw display of the immense wealth and power that flows through the sport he helped build into a global juggernaut. Picture the scene. After a tense, successful event, or in the middle of a lavish dinner, White peels off bills from a thick roll or casually signs a check, bestowing a life-changing gratuity upon a waitress, a valet, or a backstage worker with a blunt, offhand comment,
turning an ordinary service job into a moment of unforgettable windfall. It's a power move that sends a clear message about the ecosystem he rules. In his world, $1,000 is a trivial amount, a rounding error in a multi-billion-dollar enterprise, yet for the recipient, it can represent rent, relief, or a dream realized.
A casual photo of UFC lightweight contender Paddy Pimblett has sparked confusion and debate among fight fans. The undefeated star was seen vaping, a habit considered highly unusual for a professional athlete in a sport demanding peak cardiovascular performance. The timing is especially striking. Pimblett is just weeks away from the biggest fight of his career, a clash with former interim champion Justin Gaethje at UFC 324 for the interim lightweight title. The winner will be next in line to face the undisputed champion. Pimblett, known for his energetic fighting style and charismatic baddie persona, is preparing for a 5-round war against one of the sport's most violent strikers. The image presents a stark contrast between the extreme discipline required for such a bout and a habit publicly linked to reduced lung capacity and endurance. Reactions have ranged from concern over his athletic preparedness to speculation it's a weight-cutting tool or simply an act of rebellion. Whether seen as a dangerous liability or a personal quirk, the picture has added a major talking point to the buildup of a pivotal interim title fight.
The long, winding, and often frustrating saga of Conor McGregor's return to the octagon has taken yet another dramatic and disheartening turn for Michael Chandler, who finds himself once again on the outside looking in, his patient wait for the fight that has defined his last few years seemingly shattered by a few blunt words from the UFC boss. The announcement of the historic White House event on June 14th had initially seemed like the final perfect catalyst, with McGregor himself eagerly registering his interest for the monumental stage, a development that filled Chandler with his most concrete confidence yet that their long-promised clash would finally materialize in a setting worthy of its hype. However, that confidence was dealt a crushing blow when Dana White, during his media rounds to promote the new Paramount era, dismissed the matchup as a relic of the past, something that was interesting a couple of years ago but no longer on the table. In the wake of that dismissal, the landscape has shifted rapidly and chaotically. McGregor, ever the master of controlling his own narrative, responded with a broad challenge, telling the UFC to simply pick an opponent for him, effectively opening the door for anyone while sidestepping any specific commitment to Chandler. Almost immediately, that vacuum was filled by the teasing whispers of Jorge Masvidal, who coyly spoke of huge news and being in talks, fanning the flames of a new potential blockbuster for the White House lawn. This prompted a bitterly sarcastic response from a snubbed Chandler on social media, mocking the vague, cannot confirm nor deny posturing that now surrounds his coveted spot, a clear expression of his frustration after years of dedicated promotion and waiting. Now, the very presence of McGregor on the White House card, while still the dominant hope, feels wrapped in fresh layers of uncertainty. The Irishman continues to train, sharing glimpses of his imposing physique, a constant reminder of his potential readiness, but without a dance partner officially named. The path is murky. Will the UFC pivot to the commercially enticing Masvidal showdown, or perhaps another legend for a mega fight? Or has the entire White House plan for McGregor become entangled in the larger web of his ongoing contractual renegotiations, spurred by the end of the PPV model? For Chandler, the dream appears to have evaporated into the political and promotional ether of this unique event, leaving him to watch from the sidelines as the circus moves on, his headline moments snatched away by the fickle winds of fight politics, replaced by the echo of his own mocking tweet and the grim realization that after all this time, he might have been waiting for a fight that the promotion has simply decided to leave in the past.
The gravitational pull towards the UFC's heavyweight division continues to intensify around Gable Steveson, the Olympic gold medalist and collegiate wrestling phenom whose transition into mixed martial arts has been watched with a blend of awe and immense anticipation as he now stands on the precipice of taking the most significant step yet in his very young career. With a pristine 2-0 record built on first-round stoppages, including a stunning one-punch knockout that sent his hype into the stratosphere, Steveson represents a rare and tantalizing prospect, an athlete of otherworldly grappling pedigree who is already demonstrating that his fists carry legitimate fight-ending power, all while being molded under the tutelage of a legend like Jon Jones. The expectation is not just that he will eventually sign with the UFC, but that he has the raw tools to one day challenge for its most coveted title. Yet that monumental leap still awaits the formal offer, the contract that will cement his path. All of that potential now converges on a definitive moment in Monterrey on February 19th, where Steveson is set to face Hugo Lozama on the Mexico Fight League 3 card, a bout that serves as a crucial litmus test and the most substantial hurdle placed before him so far. In Lozama, he meets an opponent of solid pedigree and far greater experience, a fighter with an 11-3 record who has shown well-rounded capabilities, with finishes coming both by knockout and submission, and who has shared the cage with established names like Emiliano Sordi. This is precisely the type of challenge Steveson needs, a step up in competition that moves beyond early showcase fights and into the realm of legitimate proving grounds, where his otherworldly wrestling must now integrate seamlessly with a developing MMA arsenal against a veteran who will not be easily overwhelmed. The stakes for this single night could not be more clearly drawn. A loss, of course, would immediately cool the feverish speculation and delay any UFC dreams, forcing a rebuild and a reassessment of his timeline. A victory, particularly one that echoes the emphatic nature of his first two performances, could very well be the final compelling argument needed. It could be the showcase that convinces the UFC brass to fast-track him, perhaps through the spotlight of Dana White's Contender Series, directly onto the sport's biggest stage. So as the date approaches, the combat sports world watches, waiting to see if Gable Steveson can translate his almost mythical potential into another violent statement, using the experienced Lozama as a canvas to paint his case in the most convincing tones possible, inching ever closer to the octagon that seems destined to become his new arena. The air surrounding the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship, and indeed the entire landscape of the sport's biggest potential fights, is now thick with electrifying possibility, all emanating from a single cryptic message scrawled on a humble tire in a Brazilian shop. Alex Pereira, a man who has forged a path of destruction through 2 weight classes to claim championship glory 3 times over, is not just one of the roster's most formidable forces, but also a figure of immense intrigue during these periods of anticipation between his brutal appearances in the octagon. And now, he has personally poured jet fuel onto the most tantalizing rumor of all, a historic super fight against the man many consider the greatest of all time, the former 2-division champion and reigning heavyweight king, Jon Jones. The hint was subtle yet monumental, discovered by sharp-eyed fans in the background of a video Pereira filmed during a visit to the tire shop where he once worked before his fighting career took flight. There, on the rubber canvas of a tire, were the words, "Next Jones," a declaration that has supercharged the swirling speculation about a clash at the landmark UFC White House event this June. This is no longer just fan fantasy or media speculation. It is a direct, if playful, signal from the champion himself, suggesting his focus, his intention, and his desired destiny is a collision with Jones. The path to making this fantasy a reality, however, is fraught with legendary complications, a fact underscored by the cautiously shifting stance of UFC CEO Dana White. Initially resistant to the idea, White's recent comments to Complex revealed a crack in the door, a conditional openness that hinges on 2 volatile factors: weight and reliability. He pondered the fight at light heavyweight, not heavyweight, questioning aloud, "At 205? That would be a fight, but can I count on Jon Jones?" His concern was palpable, rooted in the unpredictable nature of Jones's career outside the cage, stating the paramount fear that I can't have Jon Jones doing something bad or pulling out of the fucking White House fight. So the question transforms from a mere what if into a high-stakes drama of negotiation, condition, and legacy. Pereira has cast his stone, inking his ambition under rubber for the world to see. White has outlined the precarious terms. The world now waits on the mercurial will of Jon Jones and on whether these three powerful forces can align to create a spectacle worthy of the White House lawn. A champion who fears no one, a legend with nothing left to prove, and a promoter balancing historic opportunity against the risk of historic disappointment. The tire has been marked. The fight, perhaps, is now waiting to be mounted. The unmistakable and thunderous presence of Derrick Lewis, the beloved fan favorite known as the Black Beast, is set to shake the very foundations of the octagon once again as he prepares to make his walk at UFC 324 on January 24th for a heavyweight clash with Waldo Cortez Acosta. And this time, he arrives with a renewed sense of vigor, a chilling confidence, and a fascinating new element in his training camp: the sanctioned support of UFC-provided peptides. In the lead-up to what promises to be a violently entertaining showdown, Lewis has opened up with characteristic bluntness, declaring himself to be in the best shape of his life, both mentally and physically, a state of perfection he attributes in part to the recovery peptides the promotion has furnished him with daily, substances he says have made a tangible difference in his movement and recuperation as he gears up for the historic first Paramount Plus CBS event. This revelation, shared on the Beast and the Cowboy podcast, adds a complex layer to the narrative, as the specific peptide remains undisclosed in a landscape where most such substances are strictly prohibited under UFC anti-doping policy, a point starkly illustrated by the recent 30-month suspension handed to Mohammed Usman for testing positive for the healing peptide BPC 157. Lewis's situation, supported by his head coach Bob Perez's awe at the stupid recovery and rapid effects, suggests a sanctioned above-board program, a potential game-changer that has the 40-year-old juggernaut looking sharper than ever, a fact fans glimpsed in recent training footage where Lewis moved with alarming agility. All of this biochemical and physical refinement converges on a single, brutal purpose, adding another highlight to his already legendary highlight reel. Lewis, the UFC's all-time knockout king, with 16 brutal finishes to his name, has sent a chilling and unequivocal message to Cortez Acosta, predicting with cold certainty a knockout in the very first exchange, a promise that ignites the imagination given his restored physical tools. He admits to paying little attention to his opponent's film, a testament to his focus on his own destructive capabilities rather than the specifics of the target. So, as the UFC 324 card navigates its share of cancellations, the Lewis vs. Cortez Acosta matchup stands as a beacon of guaranteed violence, a collision where the sport's most prolific finisher, physically optimized and mentally locked in, seeks to reaffirm his title in the most emphatic way possible, with the entire heavyweight division put on notice that a re-energized Black Beast is hunting, and he's never felt more perfect for the kill. The meticulously crafted vision for the UFC's historic White House event, that grand spectacle slated for June 14th under the new Paramount CBS banner and framed around the theme of American independence, is encountering a series of reality checks that threaten to reshape its very foundation, casting a complex shadow over what was promised to be a one-of-a-kind gathering of the sport's absolute brightest stars. The latest, and perhaps most significant complication, emerges from the candid revelation of former bantamweight champion Merab Dvalishvili, who disclosed that his long-awaited trilogy fight with Petr Yan has been explicitly ruled out for the landmark card for a singular, politically charged reason: Yan's Russian nationality.
According to the machine, the promotion conveyed that such a matchup on this specific stage is impossible, introducing a previously unspoken filter that seems to be applied to the roster, a quiet rule that could exile an entire contingent of elite fighters from the celebration. This revelation sends immediate and profound ripples through the card's potential lineup, directly impacting the two figures many fans most expected to see, the pound-for-pound king Islam Makhachev and the relentless force of nature Khamzat Chimaev. Makhachev's presence, despite Dana White's previous musings about his GOT trajectory and openness to featuring global champions, now appears deeply in doubt, his Dagestani heritage suddenly a potential barrier to the America versus everyone narrative White had sought to avoid, but which now seems implicitly enforced. For Chimaev, the waters are slightly murkier. His status as a UAE citizen and his recent fight in Chicago offer a glimmer of possibility, but his history of visa issues and the overarching new context injects a heavy dose of uncertainty into his chances. The potential absence of these two titans alone would strip the card of immense competitive luster and global appeal, a staggering blow to the event's promised grandeur. This development compounds an already significant setback, following Dana White's blunt dismissal of the long-simmering Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler matchup as old news, effectively collapsing the single most talked-about fight that could have anchored the entire promotion. With McGregor's comeback now adrift, despite Jorge Masvidal's teasing hints, and the Russian contingent seemingly on the outside looking in, the blueprint for the White House card is being forcibly redrawn in real time. What remains is a puzzle with several of its most crucial pieces suddenly unavailable, forcing the promotion to scout for alternative attractions that can still deliver a historic feel. The path to the White House lawn, it seems, is fraught with unforeseen diplomatic and promotional landmines, leaving fans to wonder what, if any, superstars will ultimately cross that threshold and whether the final product can possibly live up to the monumental hype that now surrounds a card still shrouded in official silence and escalating doubt. The anticipation surrounding UFC 324 has crystallized into a single, volatile question that hangs over the lightweight division. Can the undefeated, ever-brash Paddy Pimblett truly dethrone the human hurricane of violence that is Justin Gaethje? The booking itself sparked debate, with many believing the #1 ranked Arman Tsarukyan was more deserving of this interim title shot. But now that the Scouser stands across from the highlight, all narratives narrow to the brutal arithmetic of the octagon. Pimblett, riding high off a knockout victory over Michael Chandler, enters with an unshakable and vividly detailed confidence, painting mental pictures of a finish so inventive it borders on the theatrical, envisioning everything from a flying scissors knee to a mounted triangle, a spinning back elbow to a guillotine, describing not just a win, but a highlight reel tapestry woven from his diverse arsenal. To him, Gaethje represents not a unique puzzle, but a familiar one, merely another iteration of the powerful but predictable Chandler, a man he has already vanquished, reducing Gaethje's legendary threat to a simple overhand right. Yet, across from him stands a warrior forged in the fires of 5-round wars, a former interim champion whose very name is synonymous with carnage and resilience. Gaethje, acutely aware that his past struggles came against elite grapplers like Khabib Nurmagomedov and Charles Oliveira, has undoubtedly spent every waking moment shoring up his takedown defense and ground game, knowing this fight represents perhaps his final charge toward the undisputed gold that has eluded him. He is the veteran chasing glory against the audacious young contender who believes the throne is already his for the taking. The clash of styles is stark. Pimblett's fluid mix of striking and opportunistic jiu-jitsu against Gaethje's perfected chaos, his leg-shattering kicks, and concussive power that can end any exchange in an instant. Adding a fascinating layer to this drama is the endorsement of a champion from another realm, as Alexander Volkanovski has cast his lot with Pimblett, seeing in the younger fighter a demonstrated ability to stick to a disciplined game plan under fire, a quality he believes will be the key to navigating Gaethje's storm. This sets the stage for a legacy-defining moment for both men.
For Gaethje, it is about proving the old dog still has the most devastating bite, that his evolved game can withstand the new generation's swagger. For Pimblett, it is about transforming bold prophecy into reality, silencing the doubters who question his place, and seizing the interim strap in a manner so spectacular it demands a unification bout. When the cage door locks, it will be a collision between Pimblett's limitless imagination of victory and Gaethje's very real, very brutal capacity to shatter dreams with a single perfectly timed bomb. The only certainty is someone's highlight reel is about to get a monumental addition.
The ever-resilient and perpetually forward-thinking Max Holloway, even as he stands on the precipice of one of the most high-stakes moments of his legendary career, a BMF title defense and headline rematch against the formidable Charles Oliveira at UFC 326 in Las Vegas, is already mapping out a future that stretches far beyond the immediate battle, envisioning a perfect path that would cement his legacy in an undeniable blaze of glory. In this ideal world he paints for UFC on TNT Sports, the script is both clear and ambitious. He steps into the octagon on March 7th and not only defeats Oliveira, but does so in such a fashionable, moment-making, and undeniable way that it silences all doubt, using that victory as a direct launching pad to a historic rematch with Ilia Topuria. This time, however, the stakes would be monumental, with both the symbolic BMF strap and the undisputed featherweight title on the line, a scenario he notes was missing from their first encounter, a subtle point of contention where he deflects any potential criticism toward the UFC's matchmaking rather than his own desires. Yet, while his competitive fire burns brightly at 34, with retirement a distant thought after winning 4 of his last 5 bouts, Holloway has already given considerable thought to the final chapter, to the life that exists after the gloves are permanently hung up. In a recent, characteristically candid livestream, he drew very clear and definitive lines about what that post-UFC existence will not entail, dismissing entire realms of combat sports with his trademark blend of humor and blunt honesty. He declared bare-knuckle fighting, the path taken by contemporaries like Mike Perry, to be the most stupidest thing ever in the world, and expressed zero interest in the spectacle of Dana White's power slap, labeling participants in both ventures as next level in crazy, with a particular emphasis on the slap fighting being nuts. His retirement vision, then, is one of selective engagement, preserving the sweet science while leaving the raw brutality of other formats behind. He left the door tantalizingly ajar for a potential venture into traditional boxing, following in the footsteps of UFC legends like Nate Diaz and Anderson Silva, a possibility that suggests the pure art of striking will always call to him. So as he prepares for Oliveira, his mind is a fascinating blend of immediate, violent focus and long-term calculated legacy building, dreaming of a 2-belt legacy fight with Topuria, while simultaneously promising his fans that whatever comes after, it will be executed with the same principled approach that has defined his career, steering clear of what he sees as the absurdity of bare knuckles and slap fights, and perhaps one day trading the 4-ounce gloves for the boxing ring's larger padding, but only when the time is right, and only on terms that make sense for Blessed.